So here we have a drip edge vertical line Princeton Reverb, silver face. So this is probably 67, 68. We'll date it. The owner says, please install new tubes and change to a grounded power cable. The tubes he provided are brand new. They're JJs, and that's fine for the preamp tubes and such, but it's also JJ6V6Ss, which I have found to go very microphonic in combos. So before I install them in here, it won't have bear traps, so I won't mark up the tubes the way a bear trap would. But I'm gonna talk to him and say, let's change those out for something else. You just bought these, we can return these, get your money back. There's nothing wrong with the JJ6V6 in a head, but I find in combos they become microphonic and unreliable, which is a shame because they did not used to have that problem. And when they're not microphonic, they're a very rugged, reliable tube. But reality is reality. Let's see what's going on with the amp itself. All right, here's a pet peeve of mine. I get a lot of Princetons come in with this rear panel installed like this. They should be installed like this. It's got the original Oxford 10L, and I believe the date code in there puts it as a 66 speaker. That does not mean it's a 66 amp, just that the speaker is made in 66. Let's get the chassis out and look at the transformers. That's the best way to tell. Aside from the zinc oxide that likes to get on these chassis, it's now over my jeans, the white rust, the amp's very, very clean. It's got a 68 power transformer, 68 filter cap, 66 output transformer, and a 67 reverb transformer. Flipping it over, some ancient insects in here waiting for us. Tasty. There's that zinc oxide I was talking about. Everything in there is really, really clean. That's non-original. That's an odd thing to do there. I'm not sure why someone felt the need to have those little antennae, but that's fixable. Everything else seems very original. Now, the owner does not say he wants a recap, and I don't see any visible signs of leakage. So I'm going to talk to him about the tubes. And I'm going to definitely change out that bias cap. I'm going to ask him if he'd like the bias to be adjusted with a trim pot, or whether he wants me to just find the fixed resistor that sets the bias correctly with modern wall voltages, or if he's going to use a variac, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to change the power cable for a grounded power cable. And at that point, we'll see how it sounds. And if we have any weak gain or anything, any issues caused by a failing electrolytic here, we'll jump off that bridge when we come to it. But everything in here looks remarkably clean and in good condition. So I got to measure these resistors to make sure something funky isn't happening, but the cleanest example I've seen in a long time. There you can see another 68 date code. Let's talk about why that grounded power cable is so important and why we call the capacitor attached to this ground switch the death cap. I've got the plug plugged into a power strip, and I've got the black lead of this meter going into a ground of another receptacle in that power strip. I've got the red probe here on the chassis. And with the ground switch in this position, or with the plug in its current location in the receptacle, because the old plugs are not polarized, you can flip them 180. We've got 0.9 volts between chassis and ground right now. If I flip this the other way, 117.5 volts. That's the wall voltage today. It's ice storming in Memphis, down to 115 volts between chassis and ground. That means that is the potential between the chassis and ground, and you have a 50-50 shot of getting it right. And if you get it wrong and that potential is there and there is a possibility of current, there's an actual path, you can die. You may not even feel anything, you may just feel a tingle, but take it from me and everyone else who has tried to gig with one of these old amps back in the day, and you step up to the microphone and your lips touch that microphone, and all of a sudden you're grounding the amp through the PA. It's not fun, it's not safe. So that's why we put the grounded power cable on here, so that there will never be any potential from chassis to ground. And then this ground switch becomes decorative, as it should be.